Yo, what's going on, guys? This is Snake and I'm back with a brand new video. Today, guys, we're going to be talking about the best weapons tier list for Season 24. If you enjoy, like, comment, subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump straight into this. So I'm making this video as they have just made balance changes the day before for the EVA 8, Mozambique, P2020, RE45, and Hemlock. So there is going to be a few guns that are going to be in different places than they probably would have been last week. So that's going to be interesting. I've been using a few of them in the fire range and pub games. So bear with me, you know, I might be a little bit wrong on those ones, but this is what I'm feeling so far, and this is what I'm thinking. But meta can change really quickly, and a lot of players can start using guns a lot more often. So let's jump straight into this. So starting off with, we are going with the 30-30. Now, the 30-30 is a solid weapon, but unfortunately, I think without the skull piercer, it's kind of dropped off. It's not as good as it used to be. So I feel like for that reasoning, it can't be that high. The damage input on it is really good, to be fair. You know, if you hit a headshot with it, you are doing quite a lot of damage, even without the skull piercer, but the fire rate does let it down. And I just feel like as well that, like, with the hip fire is not as great. It's just not what it could be. So for that sort of reason, I have to be quite harsh. I'm going to put the 30-30 in C because I do feel like off a drop is a handy gun to have, but I wouldn't take it any further than that. Moving into next, we have the alternator. So the alternator is a great solid gun. Off a drop, it's fantastic. It's got like hardly any recoil. It's so steady, so easy. It's got a good mag, and the fire rate doesn't go too fast, so it's easy to control. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people love it off the drop. You can get a gold alternator this season, but I don't think I've ever heard somebody say, yeah, I'm going to drop my L star for this alternator. There's no point. When, of course, there's no hop-ups on the alternator, it's just not worth it. So I think at the end of the day, it's a good, consistent gun off a drop, but as soon as you finish off a drop, there is no reason to take this weapon, in my personal opinion. So I think for that reason, I'm going to be harsh again, and I'm going to say I might put it in D, only because I just don't see the point in using it any further than off a drop. But I feel like maybe you could use the 30-30 for a little bit longer and get a bit more out of it. I don't know. I'm a little bit... could be C as well, to be honest. But we're going to stay with that. Next up, we've got the bow check. Now, the bow check is a solid weapon, especially this season. My gosh, the damage input you can do with the bow check is ridiculous. This is what a care package weapon is all about. This is what you expect to see from a care package. So for that reason, it has to go straight in S. If it's a care package weapon, it should be an S. That is a no-brainer. Next up, we have the car. Now, the car is a solid weapon this season. A lot of people have been loving it. Some people I've even known have said, actually, I'm using this rather than a shotgun, which is mind-blowing to me that it's actually up there and it's contesting with these really good weapons. Now, do I believe that the car belongs in S? I don't think it belongs in S, but it is a really solid weapon, and I'm biting my tongue at that, and I'm thinking to myself, or could I put it? But I just don't think I would use it. Honestly, at the end of the day, so far this season, I've really not seen people make that change and say, yes, I'm going to use the car for the whole game. A few people might and not use shotguns, but I feel like you're missing out in those bubble fights, and of course, lifeline ultis if you don't have a shotgun. So I feel like at the end of the day, the car is a solid weapon, and it is good. If you can't find shotgun attachments, you might as well take it. But I think for that reason, I'm not going to put it in S. I'm going to put it in A though, which is mind-blowing to me. But I really think with its fire rate, extra different types of ammo, and the damage input, it's very, very good. Next up, we've got the charge rifle. Now, the charge rifle is a solid damage input weapon, which obviously at the end of the day, this season as well, I think you can do almost like one shot, one kill off a drop. It is so damn strong. But once again, of course, with the bullet drop, and as well, it's just, I just don't see the point in using it much at all. I think at the end of the day, it's great off a drop to get that damage input and maybe potentially get a headshot so you guys can send it and ape it. But I think otherwise, I don't see the point in using this gun. I don't see it being as valuable as a lot of them. The hip fire is a little bit easier to use than it used to be, but I just don't really think it's up there. So I think for that reason, I am going to be once again a little bit harsh. This is my personal preference as well, but I don't think I can put it too high. I think, yes, it does do a lot of damage, but it's going to drop off and people aren't going to use it as much. I think I'm going to put it in E, and I really think I'm being harsh there, but... Oh, no, but you do get select fire on it now, don't you? Oh, actually. Oh, no, I think I've been harsh there. No, I'm not taking into the fact that you can put select fire on it. A lot of people picked this gun up at the beginning of the season and thought it was going to be way better than it was. And it's not bad. Do you know what? I think I've been harsh. I'm going to put it in C. I think I'm going to put it in C. I think, do you know what? E was actually a bit out of order, and I think that's because I don't use it much at all. But no, it can obviously be used in different ways now, which it never used to be able to. So yeah, no, I'm going to put it in C. I'm going to change my mind. Next up, we're going to go with the Devotion. Now, the Devotion's a solid energy weapon. You just can't go wrong with energy weapons anyway. They are so damn strong and so powerful. Now, at the end of the day, the L-Star is probably the best one out the lot. But the Devotion is so solid, and if you can control the recoil on it, it has got a ginormous mag on it, and it does a lot of damage. I feel like the Devotion is right up there. Now, it doesn't have Turbocharger, which does make an effect on it, and I think that's one of the reasons why people decide to pick the L-Star over the Devotion, because of the fire rate. But once it's charged up and steaming and rolling, my god, the damage input is ridiculous. But I do think there's a lot more skill to use with the Devotion. So I think for that reason, I'm going to put it in A. But I do think it's a really solid weapon. If Turbocharger was still around, I think it would be in S. But I think because it's got that ramp up time and it has a little bit more skill to use, especially at range, I don't think I can put it in S. Next up, we've got the EVA rate. Now, the EVA rate is obviously, I just mentioned, it's had a reduction in its fire rate. No, it has an increase in the delay of its fire rate. So it is actually taking longer to shoot bullets with your bolts. So you have to have a better bolt now to actually have a faster fire rate. Now, that's fair enough, because at the end of the day, off a drop, I was able to do a lot of damage with the EVA 8, even without a bolt. So they've increased that, and at the end of the day, it is making an effect. It is noticeable, but it is still a solid S tier weapon. The EVA 8 is still so strong. Now, I'm going to touch on another shotgun that is probably going to take its place as number one, but I think at the end of the day, this is going to be a close second, and I think a lot of people will probably still use the EVA 8 if they're not as good with the other weapon. So for that reason, I'm putting the EVA 8 in S tier. Next up, we're going to be talking about a Flatline. Now, the Flatline is a absolute solid weapon, and I really enjoy it. It's very consistent. Every season, it's been a consistent weapon, and it's so good to use, whether that is mid, early, late game. You can use the Flatline all the time, so I feel like you can't shut down on the Flatline. You have to be bigging it up every single season. It has to be up there at the end of the day, in my opinion. Now, I don't think it belongs in S, because I really want to keep S as like the must-have weapons. If you're not running them, you're losing every single fight. So I think I'm going to put Flatline in A. A few people I know are going to be annoyed and upset about that, but I think at the end of the day, S tier has to be for those game-breaking guns that, in my opinion, are probably too overpowered. So yeah, I'm going to put that in there, A, because I don't think the Flatline is overpowered. I think Flatline is perfectly balanced and also a strong, consistent weapon. Next up, we're going to go on about the G7. Now, guys, if you have not watched the ALGS, you are missing out. And if you just don't watch any of the pro players that play Apex, you'll know that they actually all use the G7. That is the meta for the top tier players, especially on MNK, on also not even just MNK, just on PC, I should say, apologies. There is the weapon that every single one of them is using. The damage output, the fire rate, and of course as well, you're getting your shields leveled up by using the G7. It is honestly just an all-round solid weapon. The best players use it as well, because obviously they're happy and comfortable with the hip fire rate as well and all that. They're just happy with it, and it is so damn strong. And if you didn't watch the ALGS, like honestly, every single person used a G7. It was just everywhere, and even watching ranked games now, even though the L-Star is so broken, so many of them are still using the G7. It is so good to use. And yeah, you can't not put the G7 in S tier. I think with console, I'm a console player, you don't see the G7 as much, but that's purely because it's so many controller players that are not comfortable with that hip fire. If you look at the best players that use it, they are so good. I was watching Effect literally stream earlier, and he's literally running around with a G7, no care in the world, and he is one of the best controllers, if not the best controller player out there. Yeah, honestly, insane. Next up, we've got the Havoc. Now, guys, if you've not used the Havoc, if you've left the Havoc in the care package, I don't want to say you're brain dead, but you need to be thinking about it, because that weapon is so ridiculously strong. It is so good, guys. Honestly, this gun will shred through people. It is so much better than like the L-Star or anything like that. It is just so much damage. So yeah, and of course it's a care package weapon. It has to be an S tier. It is too good to be not true. Yeah, that's honestly amazing. Next up, we've got the Hemlock. Now, the Hemlock has obviously been buffed, as I mentioned. The fire rate is better. The fire rate on it is actually really good, and it actually feels so much smoother and more consistent. And honestly, you can knock people like off a drop when they have rubber shields really well. And of course, it starts to give you that question of like, what's better, the Hemlock or the Nemesis? They're both burst weapons. Now, for me personally, the Nemesis is still ahead because the Nemesis fire rate picks up even more and it is a lot faster. Now, at the end of the day, the Hemlocks is faster now. It's a bit more smoother, consistent, but I don't think it can go in S. I think it's very close. I think it's round near it. I think I'm going to put it on the same level as the Hemlock, the Flatline, because I feel like they're both very similar. They're consistent, they're fair weapons, and I think this is now evenly balanced. Now the Hemlock is a sort of gun you could look at and go, yeah, actually I might run that gun. That is actually a good gun to be using. If you've got the attachments for it and you haven't maybe seen a Flatline, you might say, actually no, I want to use the Hemlock this gun again because it is so damn consistent. So yeah, 100% I'm going to put that in A. Next up, we got the Kraber. I mean, guys, I'm not even going to doubt the best sniper in the game. It has to be an S. It is so damn strong. You got to do it, no doubt about it. Next up, we've got the L-Star. Oh my god, this is this is annoying because S is getting full, but L-Star is incredible this season. Now, it's been nerfed once already this season, but guys, it's not enough, because if you play Apex, you'll see how much that L-Star's around, especially on console again, where you've got all the controller players. They are loving it with aim assist. It is honestly so powerful. You've got to be using this weapon, because if you don't use it, you get killed by it. It is so consistent, and obviously energy weapons are just normally god tier anyway. But yeah, the L-Star, broken. Next up, we've got the Longbow. Now, the Longbow, in my opinion, is probably the worst sniper out there. I think there is not a lot going for it. It hasn't got obviously the skull piercer anymore. There just isn't much going for it anymore, and it's really upsetting to say that, but unfortunately, Longbow, you do not bring enough to the game, and I think that is the truth of it all. I think at the end of the day, if you want to be using the Longbow, then you probably are only using it because you found a gold one maybe. It's just not good enough anymore. It's not good enough. The fire rate's not fast. I just don't think it's worth it. I honestly am going to put it in F. I think it's probably the worst gun, because I just don't feel like it's anywhere decent enough to be up there higher. It does do good damage, but I'm going to be harsh, and I want something in F, and I think that deserves it. Next up, we got the Mastiff. Now, the Mastiff's dropped off. Obviously, last season it was everywhere. You know, watch the ALGS. What was the most used shotgun? Mastiff, Mastiff, Mastiff. It was bloody everywhere, and it was so strong and so good. I was still an Eva fanboy last season, but the Mastiff was genuinely, it took the T. And now this season it has been changed, but I mean, to be fair to it, it's not been slammed to the ground or anything like that, but it's just kind of dropped off because there's better shotguns to be used. It is still a very, very strong shotgun. If you can't find an Eva, you would be using this gun. And now I just feel like at the end of the day, it's still up there. Now, do I want to put it in S? I don't think I do, because I think actually at the moment you would probably say maybe it's the most balanced one out of them. Maybe. So yeah, no, I feel like it has to go in A. I think maybe an A+. Oh, that one's torn me. I want to put it in A because I feel like S. I would put it in S if I think it was actually up there and the people would not. They were fighting between the shotguns, but nobody's fighting for a Mastiff anymore. If they see the either A, they're going for it, or the next gun I'm about to talk about, the Mozambiques. They'll be looking at them now. So yeah, I don't think the Mastiff can go in S, only purely because of the pick rate. That's the only reason. Next up, we do have the Mozambiques. Now, the Mozambiques have been buffed. They've got another increase in damage, so now I think they do, rather than 16 damage, they do 17. They are looking good. And I've been watching and I've been using, and in the firing range, they do some serious damage. They are very quick, and the good thing about them as well is not only obviously do you do good damage when it's up close, and you can kill somebody with 4 bullets up close, right? 4 shots, boom, 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 boom. Of course, quick fire rate because you got them dual akimbo, but also they're very good at range, and that's where they're going to be more popular than the EVA 8. The EVA 8 doesn't have the range. The EVA 8 is stronger up close, so if you're obviously having a bubble fight, you're going to benefit more from having an EVA 8, but in those situations where it's open playing field and maybe they're running away from you, the Mozambique are going to overthrow, and I'm already seeing players using them more and more. Effect, once again, good example of using it, but I was watching Effect using them, and my gosh, bro, he is slaughtering people with them. They've got to be an S, and watch that come true. Next up, we've got the Nemesis. Now, the Nemesis is so consistent for a burst weapon. And like I spoke earlier, I said about how I was like, you got to decide whether it's a Nemesis or a Hemlock. What one would you rather pick? Now, the Nemesis is still the better burst weapon because it has that quick fire rate. It speeds up, therefore meaning faster bullets, more impact, more damage. So I feel like you can't not put this in S. I've been putting it in S the last few seasons. It's just so damn good. At the end of the day, mate, it's great. And it also does have the armor build up on it as well. So yeah, you get your armors built, damage input up quicker. So yeah, no, it's really good gun to be using. So yeah, I think it has to be S. Now, next up, we've got the P2020s. Now, the P2020s have been buffed, and I have been looking at a lot of input. I've been looking at a lot of feedback, and majority of people are very, very much enjoying these. And this is the sort of weapon that I reckon would be good with a ballistic. Just potentially just having them maybe just not even in your sling. You could have them in your sling, but I feel like they would be good just in general. But the fire rate with them is pretty much identical to an R99, but the advantage of obviously using a P2020 is you are going to have more ammunition and you get a little bit more forgiveness. The fire rate on it is pretty disgusting. It shoots ridiculously fast. I feel like these are weapons that you need to be keeping a close eye on, because I feel like they could very easily creep into meta. I don't know whether they will or not, but I think for that reason, I'm going to put them in A, because I'm not 100% sure where they're going to sit right now. Right now, I think they're honestly ridiculous. And of course, things like the R99 is really, really strong this season, but it's not really getting picked up as much in meta. You know, there'll be the off occasion where people use them, but I think at the end of the day, it's not the most broken gun there is to be seen. I'm going to put it in A. Could be changed though. Next up, we've got the PK. Now, the PK is in the care package. If you didn't realize, I'm using an older tier list video. That's why the colors are a little bit wrong. But yeah, the PK is, oh my gosh, bro. When you're in a bubble fight with a PK, oh my god, get out of the way, because I'm going to do you for over 100 damage every time. And of course, the range on it as well. When you have your precision choke on it at range, you can still do like over 100 damage. This weapon is ridiculous. People were using it earlier in the season. I mean, I did it myself. I would keep my EVA 8 and I would run the PK as my range. It is so damn strong. Unbelievable. Has to be S tier. Next up, we got the Prowler. Now, the Prowler's obviously got the Select Fire available this season, and the Select Fire makes it unbelievable. Obviously, fire rate just... That was a great sound effect. Goes straight through the roof, and it's just so powerful. Obviously, the burst damage takes a little bit more skill, and a few people are not as good at that. But at the end of the day, it is a very, very good weapon to use. If you get the right attachments, you can do a lot of damage with it. Now, I do think there's a little bit more skill to use with it, and I think at the end of the day, that's probably one of the reasons why I would look at it and go, does it deserve to be higher? Now, I really want to put it in A, and I think it really probably does deserve A, but I think the burst damage is going to make me decide to put it a little bit lower. Purely on the basis, if you don't find a Select Fire and you're not as good of a player and as skilled, I don't think you'll use this to the full benefit as you could. Whereas like potentially like something like a car or a flatline, Hemlock, they don't take as much skill to use. So that's my personal opinion. That's the reason why I've done it. Don't slaughter me too hard. Next up, we've got the 301. Now, the 301 is a brilliant weapon, super consistent. Accuracy is easy as anything to do. And at the end of the day, it is just always been the most consistent. It's a fan favorite. People love it. Now, in my personal opinion, the damage input on it is not as high and it's not as good as looking like, let's say, like the Flatline, the Hemlock and all that. But it is really, really good. And I think for that reason, I am going to put it in B. Now, that is going to probably upset a few people, and I know it will, but you got to look at the damage input. Like, if you, for example, if we're having a 1v1 spray off with Flatline and 301, who's going to win? It's going to be the Flatline. Same as if you're looking higher up. you shouldn't be taking a 301 over an L-Star. The L-Star is so much more broken. So at the end of the day, that's the reason why I'm doing it. I just think it doesn't do enough damage, and I think there's guns that can do way more. That is my reasoning behind that. Don't kill me too much. Next up, we got the R99. Now, obviously, it's not in the care package. It is in the ground floor. Now, you have to think about R9 is a solid weapon. Fire rate's ridiculous. SMG meta is incredible. It's not massively in, though. You know, once again, people use it. Early drops, maybe mid-game or whatever. But as soon as they see the shotguns, they tend to leave it and leave it behind. The R99, obviously, is deadly up close. You can get a gold R99 in a care package this season, and it feels really good. I don't think it's an S tier legend though, S tier weapon. I think I'm going to put it on par with the P2020s. As I said, they've basically got the same time to kill. I think it's got a little bit less ammunition than the P2020s, but at the end of the day, I think at the end of the day, it has to go in A. Next up, we got the Rampage. Now, I can't put the Rampage any lower than S. It has to be S. The Rampage ramped up is just mowing people down. And of course, with people using Ballistic this season, because the Ballistic's ultimate goes on for freaking ages, Rampage is just, it's pretty much everywhere. It's been majority of the time all over M&K, again, PC, lobbies. It doesn't, once again, you don't see it as much in console, but it is still so good. And whenever somebody catches you out with it, you are dead so quickly. It feels like a Sheila almost. Yeah, so it has to go in S. There's no reason it can't go in S. Honestly, broken gun. Next up, we got the RE45. Now, the RE45 had its mag increase. It was 18, it's moved up to 20. Now, does that bullet difference really make a difference? Does that make me go, man, RE45 is the best gun in the game? No. It's a little bit like the alternator. It's a solid weapon off a drop. It's got a good fire rate, very similar to the R9. Like, it's quick, it's not as quick, but, you know, it's good. But it's a little bit harder to use, you know, a little bit more recoil. Not much, though, to be honest. But, like, if you put it on par with, like, the alternator, it's got a little bit more recoil. The fire rate's better. It's hard to really kind of bicker between the two. I think, without hammer points, it's got to be on D. It's going to be in the same level as the alternator. Next up, we've got the Sentinel. Now, the Sentinel is a solid weapon. I love the Sentinel. I think it's great, especially when you have it charged up. Use a Sentinel off of drop, and you are seriously ruining people's lives. And you can do so much damage to the head. Your entry damage can be ridiculous. It is so damn powerful. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's a hard weapon to argue that it isn't good against. You know, I really feel like it deserves its slot higher up. I'm really bickering with myself here in my head where I put it. I think because it's a sniper, and in the late game, if you're using a sniper, you're going to probably miss out. You're having to go for no scopes and things like that, where therefore you're going to have a lot of more, you're not going to get much forgiveness if you miss those shots. I think I'm going to put it in A, which is really hard for me because I know the damage input is so good, but I don't think I can put it in S. Next up, we got the Spitfire. Now, the Spitfire, when it first came out this season, everyone was loving it and going like, yeah, man, it's going to be Spitfire, Horizon meta, or all that. It didn't turn out that way. Now, the Spitfire actually does so good damage. Its fire rate's a little bit slower, but it is a very solid weapon. Now, do I think it's better than the 301? I actually think the 301's probably on par. I think they're very good weapons together. I think, you know, if you look at the mag size of the Spitfire, it's brilliant. I just think the time to kill is not as fast as the 301, which obviously is where they kind of balance them each other out. I don't think I can put it in S for that reason. I think it sits nicely in B with the 301 in my personal opinion. Once again, people might hate me for that, and they might say, Snake, you're the lane this season, bro. And that's fine. Disagree with me. I don't mind. Last few weapons, we've got the triple take. The triple take, oh, I love this gun, mate. Honestly, so good, so consistent. You know, you can use it as a shotgun, you can use it up close, you can use it as like a quick scope, you can use it at range to keep poking people. The damage input is brilliant when it's all charged up with the precision choke. It is honestly great to use. The loss forgiveness on it, and of course the fire rate, is better than the Sentinel, because if you're up close and you're having to use it as like a shotgun, those 3 bullets going into people is so good. Whereas like with the Sentinel, you get 1 bullet and sometimes you miss and then you don't get as much out of it. That's where the triple take overthrows it, in my personal opinion. So I think the triple take has to go in S because energy weapons are too damn good, guys. They're too damn good. Next up, we do have the Volt. Volt, once again, solid weapon, very good, very accurate, not very hard to use, but it isn't as good as the other energy weapons. I wouldn't put it in S tier because it doesn't have a big enough mag, and I just don't think SMGs are really a meta at the moment. I think it's a little bit lower down. Now, where I put it from here, I would probably say it's hard, you know. I think I'm gonna be it's difficult, you know. It's B or A. I think I'm gonna go A because skill to use is very easy with it. Like I said, it's a little bit harder with the Prowler unless you have the select fire. But I think the Volt is extremely easy to use and the recoil is extremely easy to control. Yeah, that's the reason why I'm going to go with that. Ugh, that was a hard one. And last but not least, we have the Wingman. Now, I love the Wingman. I think it's a great weapon. Now, with the sniper mags back in the mix, it does make it a little bit more of a viable weapon. But do I think it deserves to be in the top half? Probably not. I don't know where exactly I want to put it. It doesn't have the skull piercer in it anymore, but you can get gold wingmans this season as well, which is quite cool. I'm torn. I kind of want to fill up the grid and put it in E, but I think that would be really harsh of me. So I think I'm going to put it on par with the 30-30 and charge rifle and put it in C, because I do feel like this is a sort of weapon that's very good with a little bit of range early game as well, but also you could use it later game. But obviously the damage input's not as good, so I don't think you would take it further, but it's similar to the 30-30 in my opinion. But yeah, guys, that is my tier list. I hope you have enjoyed. Guys, that was a really hard one. You can tell that all the weapons got buffed by looking at the top section. It is pretty jam-packed up the top. Of course, lower down, I've tried to spread out a little bit more. You might say I've been really harsh to the longbow, but I felt like at the end of the day, I want something in F. I don't want to be like, oh man, every weapon's great. I think the longbow's not good enough. That's my personal opinion. But yeah, guys, right, that is my weapon tier list. If you have enjoyed, please like, comment, subscribe. Apart from that, guys, I'm going to shut the hell up. Let me know if you disagree in the comments down below, because I bet you will. And I'll see you all in the next video.